Hey, how is this? Are you getting audio now? Can folks hear me? How's the audio doing on this side? Um, yeah. Can people hear me now? Can people hear me on this one? How we doing? How we doing? Oh yeah, the audio seems to be working on this link. Very good. Audio is working. Okay. Okay, so we'll play the opening music one more time. And then we'll go from there.
Spoken of the American century. I say that the century on which we are entering can be and must be the century of the common man.
A radical redistribution of economic power.
I mean, we know that racism is just a byproduct of capitalism. Everything would be all right if everything was put back in the hands of the people.
We need a government that will make sure Americans are taken care of and organize the economy to serve the people, not the profits of a wealthy few.
We now have the techniques and the resources to get rid of poverty.
We got to start getting out there with the people.
Get out of the movement and get to the masses.
We need a government of action.
Welcome. So we had to do an entirely new broadcast, in order to get the audio going. Not thrilled about StreamYard this morning, but it looks like we're here. Right? And we're back. Yeah, the sound works now. So there we go. Yeah, so glad you all are here this morning. Hope you find the new link. Yeah, we're going to have a morning conversation. We like to change it up every so often. Generally, I stream in the late evenings, but it is 10:10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Yeah, it's 10:10 Eastern Standard Time. And yeah, we're live. I'm sorry, just getting people texting me about no sound and all of that. We're live. Yeah, now that we're live, we can once again chat and have our conversation. Thanks for sticking with us through the technical difficulties. Thanks for coming back to join this stream. The Rumble link stayed the same. Unfortunately, not the same for YouTube. But the way we do this is the same way we always do it. I will answer your super chat questions in the second half of the show. First, I'll give opening remarks. Then from there, we'll do the roll call. And then from there, I'll answer your questions for the remainder of the show. So if you got something you want me to talk about in the second half of the show, by all means, send me a super chat or a Rumble rant. This probably won't be a hugely long stream because I've got some errands to run before it gets dark, and it gets dark rather early these days. Yeah, quick reminder, we do have morning messages on the CPI YouTube channel every morning. Great morning message this morning from Dan, Niswander, Ishmael, and Patrick. It was an LA meetup of 3 CPI activists in the LA area. They did a morning message together. It was beautiful. Yesterday was a great morning message from Gabby. It was really nice. It was beautiful. So yeah, I'm live. Glad you all are here. So yeah, like I said, send super chats for the second half. Give me something to talk about. Super chats or Rumble rants for the second half. I'm going to jump into it. So I thought I would start out by doing, since I don't do morning streams very often, one thing I like to do for morning streams is I like to do this exercise that I do, which is very, very good. It helps. It has really improved my posture, and it has also, it really just improves upper body strength. So I'm going to start out this morning by doing this exercise where I basically just hold my arms in the air for as long as I possibly can. I stand. I'm obviously going to stand up. So I'm standing up, right? There we go. And I always put on John Philip Sousa, the marches of John Philip Sousa while I do this. So we'll put on John Philip Sousa, and we will try to see how long I can keep my arms in the air. I encourage you to do this with me. It's very, very good for your back, and it's a great way to just kind of start out the day, get your spine all straightened out and all of that. So I'm going to do my morning arms exercise. Then from there, we'll resume our political conversation. So ready, set, go. Yes. Yeah, Red Stick says this is calisthenics. So it's double plus good, right? Long live Big Brother. Just joking, of course. But no, this is good. I need to get in the habit of doing this more often. I was doing it every day for a while, and then I stopped, and I've been doing it again, so I'm resuming. Yes, very good for your back, very good for your upper body. I think the longest I've ever done it was like 22 minutes, 25 minutes, something like that. So we'll see how long we can go today. Shout out to everyone who's joining the chat. Glad you're with us. Yeah, Ian says it burns more than you expected. You're right, it does. That's why you should do it, right? It's actually a really good exercise. Body weight. And this is Stars and Stripes Forever, the very famous patriotic march by John Philip Sousa, longtime favorite of mine. Yeah, it's difficult. I feel it in my shoulders. I feel it in my upper arms. I feel it in my back, my Spine is stretching out right now. Feels very good, but it's also, yeah, I'm starting to feel that burn. Oh. Feeling it. I need to get in the habit of doing this more often. I used to do this every day. Fell out of the habit. Need to resume. I think this is called the Liberty Bell March. Is that what this is called? Liberty Bell March? Oh, I'm feeling it. And down. Woo! Yeah, I've gotten out of the habit. I did 7 minutes and 5 seconds. I used to be able to do a lot longer than that. So I need to resume the habit. That's fine. I will resume the habit. Oh, yes, my back feels great right now. Oh, man, that does wonders for your posture. That does wonders for your upper body strength. So, yes, I encourage people to do that exercise. This morning, I did 7 minutes and 5 seconds. In the past, I've gotten up to 19, 20 minutes before. So we're trying to restore that strength. So there we go. Now, that was actually the Washington Post march. Got it. It was the Washington Post march. Well, there we go, folks. If I start doing morning streams more often, which is what I intend to do, I think I'm going to do morning streams much more frequently. I will start doing that with you all. I feel like having you all there kind of encourages me, which is helpful. So I do appreciate that. Glad you all are here. I've got 2 super chats to answer in the second half of the program. And yeah, just a couple things to talk about. I tend to focus on these streams on optimism, right? On the idea that we're being as positive as we possibly can. And because of that, I have refrained from talking about Syria too much because it's obviously something that I was not hoping for. And it's something that our community has been raising the alarm about. We've been opposing the fall of the Syrian government, and it happened. And, there's nothing really that I can say other than, well, if you spend billions and billions and billions of dollars of U.S. taxpayer money over year after year after year to overthrow a government, you can successfully topple a regime. I think it's amazing the Syrian government held out as long as it did, despite everything. And also, I can expect we're going to see yet another example of why U.S. regime change operations are not successful for the people. And I don't want to dwell on it too much because, I mean, I don't want to be the "I told you so" guy, but we know what happened to Libya after the overthrow of Gaddafi. We know what happened to Iraq after the overthrow of Saddam Hussein. We know what Afghanistan was like under 20 years of U.S. occupation. Is the situation in Syria going to get better because the Syrian government has fallen? Of course not. And we know that already. But we'd rather not be in a position to say, "I told you so." We'd rather not be in this situation. And I worry about the Syrian Christians. I made a point of asking the State Department spokesperson, John Kirby, about what would happen to the Syrian Christians. I confronted him at the State Department. We had an exchange 8 years ago. This was our exchange. I guess I'll show it here. This is 8 years ago. A long time. 8 years is a long time. 8 years ago, I was at the U.S. State Department, and this is what I said to John Kirby.
Yeah. Wouldn't the violent toppling of the Syrian government directly benefit ISIS?
The toppling of the Assad government benefit ISIS?
That would be directly to the benefit of ISIS.
Look, I'm not going to speculate about what would or what wouldn't benefit Daesh. I mean, to some degree, and the secretary's talked about this, there's a symbiosis between the Assad regime and Daesh, and he said that many, many times. It is through Assad's brutality that Daesh has been able to fester and grow into ungoverned spaces. And one of the things that we've talked about routinely, although we haven't said it, we haven't talked about it recently, is that we understand that while the future of Syria cannot include Bashar al-Assad, as we work through this political process to a transitional governing body, we recognize that some institutions of government, for instance, the security forces, in some form or fashion, has got to stay intact, so that there isn't a complete collapse of an appropriate governing infrastructure inside the country as we work through this very difficult transitional process.
If the Syrian government were to just immediately fall, what would happen to Syrian Christians? What would happen to Syrian Alawites?
Look, I'm not going to engage in hypotheticals about a situation that we're actually obviously trying to avoid. It isn't about the fall of the regime. We are trying to get to a transitional process of governance that preserves even some of the existing infrastructure going forward, but that at the end of that process gets us to a government that is put in place by the Syrian people with their voices being heard, and it doesn't include Bashar al-Assad.
Yeah. So, I was raising the alarm about what might happen 8 years ago, and there you go. I mean, there's not much more we can say about it, and my feeling on here is that we need to remain optimistic. I was on with Jamal Thomas earlier this morning. We had an early morning conversation. And I said to him that I feel like our side is way, 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 way too interested in losing, right? We are just so anxious for bad news to happen. We are just so negative. We need to not be that way. You all know I was streaming on Saturday night. And people were in my chat saying Damascus is falling, blah, 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 blah. And people were in my chat saying Bashar Assad's dead. He died in a helicopter crash. Well, that was fake news. That was fake news. He did not die in a helicopter crash. He's in Russia. The Syrian president is in Russia. But people were in my chat all saying this. And I said, guys, just slow down. And I will comment on it when it happens. And that this is something that the imperialists are using social media to do, is they want us all to react in real time and make things worse. The reason they spread that fake news story about Assad being dead was to embolden the people around the world that wanted the Syrian government to fall. So, I just encourage people to wait until the dust clears, and wait until the dust clears, and we'll see what happens, right? And that there is way too much anxiousness and willingness to lose on our side, right? If you expect the worst from the world, you will get it. Right? We need to expect the best from the world. Obviously, we've endured many defeats before, and this is yet another defeat, but we shouldn't expect defeat. And obviously, I'm looking on at the situation in Syria and the results, the humanitarian crisis, and all of this, and I'm saying this is not good. But that said, I'm not going to dwell on it, right? I've been talking about Syria since 2011, since this conflict began. I even went on CNN to talk about Syria. I've been raising awareness about what the fall of the Syrian government might mean and why that's not a good thing. And now we're seeing it in real time. And that's all we can really say about it. I view my responsibility as to focus on positivity and optimism, because that is the bond through which we can build the anti-imperialist movement that this country desperately needs. Also, on that note, the murder of CEO Brian Thompson. I have said this is not something we should embrace. And people say, Caleb, oh my God, but this is a ruthless CEO who denied people coverage. True, not defending the CEO. And the fact that people would lie and say, just because I don't embrace murder on the streets, just because I don't embrace individual terror and assassination as a tactic, that I'm defending the policies and practices of this CEO. If you think that, you are completely being disingenuous. I'm not defending what this guy did. I'm not defending United Healthcare, but I'm also saying that hunting down individuals and shooting them on the streets is not the road to getting healthcare. And I've said what we need is a mass movement. And I invoked the Grapes of Wrath. And then Peter Coffin went and actually found the passage from the Grapes of Wrath, the "Who do I shoot?" passage from the famous novel Grapes of Wrath. These problems are systemic. They're not a problem of individuals. And that obviously we need a mass movement to oppose these things. We don't need individual lone wolf assassinations. That's not going to improve the situation. And that's not who we want to be. We don't want to be the people that are dwelling on vengeance. We don't want to be the people that are dwelling on resentment. We want to be putting forward solutions to improve the lives of working families. One of those solutions is a rationally organized healthcare system. It's part of an overall rationally planned economy, that we defeat the imperialists, reorganize the economy so that healthcare is available to all the American people as an investment in our population, because the people are the source of all wealth. That is what I want. But I'm going to focus on it in an optimistic and positive way, not in a vengeful and negative way. And that is what I urge all of you to do as well. I agree with what Terry has to say on this. And I'm even getting a little bit conspiratorial, because the way this young man is being romanticized is not the way the media usually responds to activities like this. Look, generally when there is an act of political murder or an act of political assassination, they don't publicize it, because they know that the people who perpetrated the crime did it in order to get attention. In this case, they are publicizing it like crazy. They are making a big deal out of how good looking the guy is. They put his manifesto everywhere. And that makes me feel like, again, I said on here that I think there is a plan for an American years of lead. I think that's the plan of our ruling elite. They would like the years of lead to come to America. Google the years of lead, right? This is something that it's not widely known, but in Italy, they had, from the 1960s to the 1980s, they had what were called the years of lead. And the years of lead were a period where communists and leftists and far-right fascists were in the streets of Italy killing each other. And there was a huge amount of political violence, assassination, shooting people in their legs, not killing them, but, disabling them by shooting them in their legs, bombings, kidnappings. It was very, very awful. The years of lead. It was very, very awful. And did the years of lead in Italy lead to socialism? Did it lead to the Italian people embracing anti-imperialism and socialism? No. And in fact, we now know the years of lead in Italy were the results of Operation Gladio. That basically the Italian Communist Party was very, very popular coming out of World War II. And the CIA feared that if the Italian Communist Party were to win the elections, Italy would leave NATO. And so in order to prevent the Italian Communist Party from peacefully taking power and winning the elections, the CIA fomented 2 decades of violence and terrorism. And it wasn't simply fascist far-right violence. It was also ultra-leftist violence. The CIA worked with the Red Brigades, they were called. The CIA worked with various far-left, fascist, and extremist groups, as well as communist and Maoist and anarchist and Trotskyite groups. And there was just a prolonged campaign of violence and killing that sickened most people. And most people wanted to stay out of politics because they didn't want to get killed, and the population became weary. And Italy is still a member of NATO, and communism in Italy has completely lost any strength. There's no Italian Marxist-Leninist movement to speak of, and that was the way they handled it. Is that they created a prolonged period of violence in order to demoralize the population. And I feel like right now in the United States, that is what the plan is. That they see that because Trump won the elections, because he's against the establishment, they see that because of the fact that the economic situation is getting worse, many Americans are questioning mainstream media, and the plan is to foment some kind of American years of lead, to have extremist groups shooting and killing each other and get the population weary of violence so that we just accept the conditions. What they're really afraid of is a mass movement. What they're really afraid of is working people coming together and saying, we want to improve things in our country, and putting forward an anti-imperialist working class program. That's what they're afraid of. They're not afraid of isolated acts of violence and terror. They're not afraid of that. They're not afraid, they're not afraid of people yelling at each other on the internet and tearing each other down. They're not afraid of that. And we have to embrace the obvious solution, which is that we need a mass movement of working people to demand a government of action to fight for working families. And that right now the ruling class is trying to give us every option but that. Well, they want us a mass movement that's focused on identity politics. They want a mass movement that's focused on conspiracy theories. They want a mass movement that is focused on isolated acts of violence and terror. They want every internet fandom you ever heard of. But at the end of the day, what we need is a mass movement. And no, being part of an internet fandom is not going to cut it. And no, trying to own communism and, make communism popular in America and own the communism TM, that's not going to cut it. We need a mass movement of working people to oppose imperialism and make the country better. And they are going to give us every option except that. And we just have to focus on the goal. I urge people to develop tunnel vision. Tunnel vision. Just focus on what it is that everybody can see we need. We need a mass movement of working people to oppose the march toward World War III and the danger of a new world war. That is what we need. And it's very obvious that we need that, but it's also very obvious that our ruling elite will do everything they can possibly think of to give us another solution. And that's why I'm very happy. I'm very, very happy to announce that we are going to have a nice event. When Donald Trump takes the oath of office on January 20th, Monday, we will be in Washington, D.C. And we are having an event. And I hope that you will come. And this event, location public, we will be meeting at Hilton Garden Inn, 815 14th Street Northwest, and we will have free food and music and speeches. It's going to be a very nice food buffet, and we will be having an anti-imperialist reception in Washington, D.C. on the day that Donald Trump takes the oath of office. And we're going to be at the inauguration earlier. We'll be in the streets with a banner supporting, our famous Trump Kim banner. We'll have other outreach materials. We're printing a nice pamphlet that will be widely distributed. And we are going to try and spread anti-imperialism and build our movement, our organization of people dedicated to anti-imperialism. We're going to build that movement. We're going to build that organization. And I'm very, very excited about our activities coming up on Inauguration Day. It's going to be great. So mark your calendar. Come to Washington, D.C. Come to our reception. We need you to be there and to enjoy it. It's going to be a great day. This is what will ultimately win us what we need, is building a movement that can go out and engage with people, a movement that can be in the streets, a movement that can raise awareness. We need to build a movement. And that is the obvious answer. The ruling class is trying to give us every other option except that. We need to build a movement of working people to oppose imperialism, oppose the march toward World War III, and oppose the danger of a new world war, and oppose the emerging low-wage police state. That's what we need. Yeah. And we're going to do it. We're going to do it. And I'm very excited about it. I'm very, very excited about it. And I hope that you will join us at our event in Washington, D.C. It's going to be great. It's going to be important. So that's where I'm at. I wanted to do this morning stream. I didn't say it was going to be huge or long. I see what's happening with Russia and the Orshnik missiles and everything going on with that. And on top of that, I see what's going on, with Trump preparing to take office and all of that. There's a lot in question right now. A lot in question for me personally. Things are up in the air for me, but things are looking good, but we'll see what happens. At this point, I'm technically unemployed. I'm unemployed at this point, but things are looking good for me. But who knows? Who knows what could happen? And I'm just focused on getting to that inauguration. The other thing is that I am headed to Florida next weekend. I will be headed to Florida to support the Uhuru 3. They will be sentenced on Monday in federal court in Tampa, Florida. And because of that, I'm headed to Florida to support them. I have stood with the Uhuru movement for a long time. I've stood with them. I was in the courtroom with their trial. John McCarthy, a CPI member, has been there. We have been the biggest supporters of the Uhuru movement. And so I'm headed to Florida to attend their court hearing. They were found not guilty of being Russian agents. They were acquitted on the main charge, but they were convicted of conspiracy, which makes no sense, because if they ruled that their activities did not constitute acting as Russian agents, how could they have conspired to do something illegal when they ruled that what they did was not illegal? So they have been convicted on that charge, and they are waiting sentencing on their conviction. So we're obviously going to be there to support them because we're there. We've been there from the beginning, and that's what we're doing. So I'm headed to Florida. We've got a lot of exciting things that are going on. All right. Well, listen, folks, it's only been a half hour, but that's fine. Names and locations. I will call you all out as I see you. Then I'll answer the super chats and Rumble rants that have come in, and then we'll be done. Names and locations. Who is with us tonight? Names and locations. Who is with us? Names and locations. Who's with us this morning? Names and locations. Who's with us? All right. Connor in Colorado. Names and locations. Good to have you with us, Connor. It's early out there. Jenny in Cincinnati. Welcome. Luca in Singapore. Alexander G in Norway. Alex in Brazil. Batch in Arizona. Megan in Kansas City, Missouri. Welcome, Megan. Nico in Los Angeles. Very early out there. Jack Dawkins in Arizona. Portland, also very early out there. Wow, I'm impressed with the number of early morning West Coasters we've got here. Colleton Bay Area. What's the Colleton Bay? I'm just kidding. You're Colleton in the Bay Area. Got it. Craig's back in Kansas City. Welcome. British Columbia, Bruce Monroe. Welcome, Bruce Monroe. Names and locations. Ian, Chester in England. What time is it in England, my friend? Seasoned noob in China. Hey, I'm glad you all are here, though. All right. We have a great community. We're here for each other. Briggy in Pennsylvania. Good morning. Well, good morning to you, Briggy, and thank you for all that you do. The people unite in California. Very, very good. Glad that the people in California have united. That is great. Good stuff. Japan. All right. What time is it in Japan? All right. So the 2 super chats that came in this morning, no question, just showing support. You're mostly on point. Well, thank you, Alexander G. Syria was quite a shock, really. Hopefully you're going to get a democratic government to fulfill the will of the people, Syrian border integrity, no more looting of resources. Don't count on it. I wouldn't count on it. But there you go. There you go. Well, those seem to be all the super chats that have come in. And we did have our roll call, and I did my arms thing. And I didn't say this was going to be a huge, long stream. This was just a morning stream I was going to do. So, you know, unless anyone has any more questions, I will probably cut this off here. Yeah, anything else on people's minds? I don't see any Rumble rants. So I am going to end this stream. I might be back on tonight, might be back tomorrow. We'll just have to see. But a lot of exciting things are happening in my life right now. Things are going one way, they're going another. Headed to Florida this weekend to support the Uhuru movement. Headed to, oh, you appreciate me. I thank you. Always appreciate it. Well, thank you. I really do appreciate that. Headed to Florida to support the Uhuru movement this weekend. And then I am headed to DC for our big event. Please attend our big event in Washington, DC. Our Inauguration Day reception. It's going to be important for us to be there. I hope you will join us. It's going to be a great day in Washington, D.C. When Donald Trump takes the oath after getting elected on a platform of making peace around the world and opposing the police state and sticking up for our freedoms. Let's hope that Trump does at least some of the things he promised to do. That would be nice. But our job is to build an anti-imperialist movement. That is our job. And so, yes, see you all. See you all in Washington, D.C. See you all in Florida. And see you all on this YouTube channel, maybe later today, maybe tomorrow. Who knows? But I am around. I'm always on here. Best wishes, everybody. Talk to you all soon.